When you think about a bustling beehive, honey is probably the first thing that comes to mind, right? But there's so much more going on inside. It's a hidden factory working 24/7. And today, we're going to pull back the curtain and follow one of the most amazing processes inside, how bees turn simple flower dust into an actual engineered superfood. So here's the big question we're tackling. How on earth do bees take something as basic as pollen, flower dust, and transform it into this powerhouse food source that can sustain an entire colony? I mean, think about that for a second. The answer, well, it's this incredible mix of biology, chemistry, and just amazing teamwork. All right, so let's start at the very beginning. Our story kicks off with a mission. And this isn't just any mission. The hive's entire survival literally depends on it. It all starts with the hunt for pollen. So what exactly is pollen from a bee's perspective? Because to us, it's just that yellow dust that makes us sneeze, right? But for them, it is everything. It's their main source of protein, fats, vitamins, basically all the good stuff. You can think of it as the essential building block for the whole hive. Without it, they just can't raise the next generation. It's that critical. Okay, so to get this absolutely vital ingredient, the hive sends out its specialist. This is the forager bee. And let me tell you, this is no ordinary insect. It's basically a perfectly designed biological machine, and it is built for one job and one job only: collection. And get this, the bee's #1 tool is its own body. It's covered in this super dense network of tiny branched hairs that are actually electrostatically charged. So what does that mean? It means the pollen grains literally jump onto the bee as it gets close. Even its head and its eyes have these hairs, creating this huge surface area just to trap as much pollen as physically possible. Now, this whole collection thing happens in a couple of ways. Sometimes the bee is on a mission specifically for pollen, gathering it on purpose. But a lot of the time, it's just a happy accident. The bee dives into a flower to get some sweet nectar, and its fuzzy little body just gets totally dusted. And that little accident, by the way, is the secret sauce to pollination. It's exactly why bees are so important for all our plants. So you've got this bee covered in loose dust. How does that turn into those neat little packages you see on their legs? Well, it's this really cool, kind of elegant three-step process. First, the pollen gets stuck all over its hairy body. Then, the bee uses its front and middle legs like tiny combs to brush all that pollen off itself. And finally, this is the amazing part, it transfers all that combed pollen and packs it super tightly into these special baskets on its back legs. Okay, so our forager bee has its baskets packed full, but its mission is only half over. Now comes the next big step, getting all that precious cargo safely back home to the hive. And this is where you really see the hive's social structure in action. You've got guard bees at the entrance, basically bouncers, ready to kick out any intruders. A bee that shows up empty-handed, a robber bee, is going to get turned away. But a bee loaded down with pollen, she gets a free pass, no questions asked. The pollen is literally her passport. It proves she's a working member of the colony, not a threat. So once she's past security, the forager doesn't mess around. She finds an empty hexagonal cell, usually close to where the baby bees are being raised. And then she does this clever little move where she uses her middle legs to just kick the pollen pellets off her back legs, and boom, the cargo is dropped right into the cell. For her, the job is now done.
But the pollen's journey? Oh, it's far from over. What happens next is kind of like a secret alchemical process. It's a transformation that turns this raw pollen into a genuine superfood. And this, my friends, is where the real magic begins.
So the forager bee is off to her next task, and now a whole new team of specialists takes over. We call these the house bees. Their entire job is to process all the raw materials coming into the hive. And these house bees, they follow a very specific recipe. First, they add their own secret ingredients, a mix of nectar or honey and their own saliva, which is full of special enzymes. Then, they use their little jaws, their mandibles, to mash and pack that pollen down really, really tight to get all the air out. And as more foragers bring in new loads, they just keep adding new layers of different kinds of pollen, creating this beautiful, colorful blend from all sorts of flowers. And this final product, it has a special name. It's called bee bread. See, it's not just pollen anymore. It's now this preserved, fermented, supercharged food source. And it's been specifically engineered to feed the hive's most vulnerable and important members, the larvae. The really critical thing to get here is that transformation. What the bees are doing is a type of lactic acid fermentation. It's actually pretty similar to how we make things like sourdough bread or yogurt.
This process breaks down the pollen's tough outer shell, it turns complex starches into simple sugars the larvae can easily digest, and it basically unlocks all the nutrients, making them way more available. So they're not just pre-digesting the food, they are literally engineering a superfood.
So all of this incredible work, the collecting, the packing, the fermenting, it all boils down to one single purpose: making sure the colony has a future. So why is this bee bread so vital? Well, it's the perfect food for the growing larvae. It's what lets them develop into strong, healthy adult bees. Without a good supply of it, the queen actually stops laying eggs, the young can't be raised, and the entire colony just starts to weaken. It could even collapse. Bee bread is truly the engine that powers the whole hive. You know, when you step back and look at this whole process, from flower to bee bread, you start to realize something profound. A hive isn't just a bunch of individual insects. It operates like a single, giant organism, a superorganism. Every single bee has a specialized job, from the forager way out in the field to the house bee packing the cells. They're all cogs in this complex, living factory, all working together for the good of the whole. So from a tiny grain of pollen to a life-giving superfood, the making of bee bread is just an absolute marvel of natural engineering. And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? If this much incredible complexity is packed into a single beehive, what other amazing secrets is nature hiding from us, right there in plain sight?